Howdy. Let's chat real quick about Murder Always Barks Twice, which is the second book in the Chatty Corgi mystery series by Jennifer Hawkins. I love this series. I loved this installment in it. I gave it 5 stars easily. But let's chat about why. So I did just finish it, and I just wanted to get the thoughts out while they're there. So it's very late at night, and if it weren't, I would have my corgi Dima do a cameo, but it'll happen one day. But I did put on the appropriate gear for this, so that's something. And again, since it's so late, I'm not gonna actually make tea. This is a English cream tea centric series also. So I'm gonna have this artificially sweetened mint mojito seltzer water I've developed a liking for in my fancy teacup. Because why not? But so, just to fill you in if you're not familiar with this series, the chatty corgi part is because our protagonist, Emma, can talk to her dog, which, I know that sounds corny and probably really off-putting to a lot of people, even to a lot of cozy readers. And I thought it would be once I realized that was what the premise of this was. But it's so endearing. Like, she did it so well. And just when you hear, or when you're reading like how Oliver the corgi behaves and what he says, it just lines up so well with the internal monologue that I imagine for my own corgi. And it's become a very special thing to me. So I'll snap all of these books up as soon as she releases them forever, basically. I ended up really loving it. So I'm just saying, even if you don't think you'll like that, give it a chance. It creates a really interesting dynamic with the sleuthing because you're kind of in a middle road between conventional and paranormal. So, you kind of get to use Oliver as like a reconnaissance drone. It's very close to the ground for a lot of the book. You see some of the narrative through his perspective, through, Corgi eye view. And it that can feel like cheating because he hears things and he finds things that he tells Emma about, but he's not always entirely reliable. Like, he doesn't always fully understand what he's hearing or seeing. And there's also the fact that she has to verify and she has to figure out how to explain how she arrived at this information. Without saying her dog told her. So I find that very enjoyable. Now, a lot of the first book, To Fetch a Felon, is basically her working up working on setting up her transition from working as kind of like a high power accountant into running an English tea business. Where it's not just the fancy tea, but also all the baking she does that accompanies that. Scones. I love to make scones. I don't actually know what all else goes with that. I like finger sandwiches and things. It mentions it in the book, and it talks about Great British Bake Off a lot, which I also love. But anyway, I'm getting off track. So, in this book, we're kind of like that's set up, and there's some other characters involved. I won't go into detail, so it doesn't spoil anything from book one for you. But as you've probably anticipated, she gets roped into another questionable death. I thought the mystery, it did make some leaps. There were some little, probably like inexplicable, really incompetence from some of the officials and some things that, you have to suspend your disbelief for, but none of it was too glaring. It was really well just stacked. Like, there were layers and layers of this, and I really liked how you just kept getting information on top of, like, fact on top of fact throughout the whole book, and it kept your gears turning. A lot of cozies just really fall short in this regard, especially if they're ones that are, working up some really cozy angle like the talking dog thing. So I thought that was brilliant. It's been quite a while since I read the first book, so I don't remember everything perfectly, but I think it might have been a little better than that one in that regard. I will say the way the murder happened wasn't like the method. That wasn't ever entirely fleshed out, but I'm just letting it slide, which I can do. We can do that whenever we want, so I'm going to. So, in this installment, she does get to pull out her accounting skills a good bit, which I appreciated. I just thought it was nice to see that, she does have more skills than just the cake baking. Not that there's anything wrong with the cake baking, but we love a complex character with diverse skills. And she gets to whip out her accounting skills because this one deals a lot with, like, I guess, an estate in decay, some rich people family drama, which is very fitting to the British backdrop. These are all set in Cornwall, which I think, is that where Poldark is set? I think that's where Poldark is set. But speaking of rich people, there's one character that she's just horrible. Both just because of her physical description, but especially because of the way that she acts in literally every instance. I just mentally inserted Angela from The Office, but like as much wealthier, and I don't know if that's what Miss Hawkins was going for, but it worked very well. They actually call this character the hyphenated Kate because her last name's like hyphenated. I don't know if I like that. I wondered if maybe that's like a class thing in Britain. Like, you have a wealthy side of the family, so you want to keep that in there in the mix or something. I don't know if it's not any kind of like a status thing like that, and that's just her name. I don't really think that's something to take jabs at. There was plenty more to you know poke at her character a bit with there. Especially, I think in some parts of the world, that's actually just the norm, right? But, anyways, one thing I'm not crazy about. So, there's a love interest, but it's a very minor subplot, which I prefer. I don't like when cozies are more romance novel than cozy. If it's well done. I really love a good romantic subplot. Like, oh my goodness, like the pervy mystery books. Those. That's what I like. But so it's minor, which I prefer, but I think Brian's kind of dull. I'm really glad he's not a cop. Way too many cozies with that dynamic going. So that was nice. But yeah, he's just, I don't know. I'm just not interested in him for some reason. But she's kind of working on that, and then she's just integrated into the Trevina, one of the two, into that community much better since book one. Book one did feel maybe a little off kilter just because she was such a newcomer. In a lot of cozies, they're like moving back to their hometown, so they go in the grocery store and it's like, well, I haven't seen this person in 15 years, but they know them. Lord knows that was how it would be if I moved back to my hometown. But these were just all new folks to her, and she's gotten some really good friendships and become a recognizable face in the town. So that felt a little more settled within the genre this go round. If anything, this almost maybe bordered on slightly too many characters at times, but I think she had a good balance. Like I may have said earlier, I thought the mystery part of this was just extremely well done. It was complex, it kept you guessing, you were constantly getting new information. I thought that was much better than just the average cozy you'd pick up off a shelf. Good writing. Good mystery, good atmosphere. Just all part of why I gave it a 5 star. Also, this is one I would recommend, especially to folks kind of in my age group who maybe don't know about the cozy mystery genre. I do think it's a decently diverse book, at least compared to the rest of the cozy mystery genre. That is like a relative scale thing. I do think Emma's maybe in her 40s, but it's not like, oh my goodness, there's one I got for 99 cents the other day that, I don't mind reading a book from, a 60, 70, 80-year-old perspective. That doesn't bother me a bit. I love Miss Marple. Except that this book was like one of the main characters was going on a rant about how like useless everyone under the age of 30 is. So I was like, yeah, I think I'm out on that one. This one, nothing of that sort. It was lovely. So anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Hopefully you've been ignoring where I shaved. Where is it? Not shaved, like plucked the end of my eyebrow off. But yeah, the third book in the series is already out. I want to start on it ASAP. I don't know when or if a fourth one is coming. I truly hope it is. Um, it's gonna take a while because there's a lot of books to go through, but I'm incrementally trying to work towards like a big herding of all the corgi themed cozy mysteries. And that'll be like this series, some off Kindle Unlimited, just all the ones I can find, literally. And hopefully I'll be able to bring Dima on for his commentary in that one. And there would be commentary. If you haven't spent much time around corgis, that's why it's like a chatty corgi mystery series. They're constantly like mumbling and grumbling and making all these very weird sounds that you do not normally associate with dogs. I know I'm going back. I also think that's why if you were gonna have a story where the protagonist like understands what her dog says, it's perfect because he doesn't have to, say a whole sentence in like a bark. And it just kind of flows in your brain because he'll be like, "Yeah, the killer ran around the shed or whatever." And you can just hear it in your head like cuz that's what they do. Those are corgi noises. But anyway, yes, actually wrapping up this time. I love to go read it. Take care. Happy reading all that.